Unfunded mandates are those programs that are required to be provided per state law or federal law. And so we provide those services, but we don't always get the funding to fully pay for them. As a result, we're putting in a lot of local dollars to provide state and federal programs that are great programs. Some are very necessary programs, but they burden our property taxpayers. And as a result, New York State's property taxes are high compared to other states. It makes it difficult then to try to provide other local services without further burdening our property taxpayers. When we look at all of the taxes that we collect, whether it's property tax or sales tax or hotel motel tax, any of those types of taxes that people are paying, 89 cents of every dollar that they're paying in any of those taxes is going to these programs, to these state mandated programs. And what are we talking about? We're talking about Medicaid. Medicaid in Rensselaer County is about $34 million annually, well over half of our property tax levy. So half of your property tax dollars that you're paying to the county are going to pay for this one program.
You've mentioned frequently in your State of the County addresses and your annual budget messages to the people of Rensselaer County how local programs and services are suffering. Can you expand a little bit about what you mean about having the ability to serve the community needs locally without having the resources to do so? What types of programs are being impacted by the situation the New York counties find themselves in?
Well, there are a lot of local services that people depend upon. Certainly our senior services. We run 5 senior centers that provide services at those locations and then services out to the community. Our services to our veterans, that is not mandated, and that's an important priority for us. Our services to our youth and how well we can support them in growing up to be good citizens. Our road patrol, our Sheriff's Road Patrol, that's not a mandated service, yet obviously very critical in order to keep families and businesses in Rensselaer County. How well we maintain our roads and bridges, that's predicated on how much we have left of that dollar of property tax. And with 11 cents, it gets very difficult to try to do all of that and more. We're a full-service health department, so we provide a lot of services that, again, are not mandated, but are critical to quality of life services in Rensselaer County. All of those tend to get squeezed as we look at a budget that needs to stay under the tax cap, and not just because that's the law, but because we know that our property taxpayers are paying too much already, so we want to be mindful of their purses and wallets. And that budget also has to address these growing mandated costs. While Medicaid is a fixed amount, every other mandated program continues to increase year after year after year. So those local services tend to be squeezed like in a vice because we only have so much money. And in fact, we want to be frugal about those. When we look at our seniors, we're often caught in the budget discussion about, do we cut senior services because they're not mandated and worry about people not getting good nutrition, not being able to stay in their homes, not being able to get some help to do that? Or do we raise the property taxes, which can be a burden, again, to keeping seniors in their home? So it makes for very difficult budget decisions year after year. How do we get that 11 cents to stretch as far as we need it to?
And can you talk just briefly here about what it's like to construct a budget? How does a county government propose its budget in Rensselaer County? Do you look at state reimbursement, which is partially funding, and you consider the property tax amount and forecasting sales tax amounts? Right. What's the process that's used to put together the county budget?
Well, in an ideal year, you anticipate some amount of growth in your property tax base because you're adding businesses, you're adding
That's
buildings, you're adding,
exactly.
In a good year, you also have growth in your sales tax because people are getting a little more income, they're spending more in our stores. Hopefully, we're adding more stores that they can spend right here in Rensselaer County. And then that alleviates a little bit of the burden of those growing mandates. This year has been a good year the past couple of years as we have come out of the Great Recession. And so we've been able to put a little more into our roads. We've done about a third of the roads in the last 3 years, which is really terrific, what we want to do. Thank you. And we've been able to ensure that those services that are so necessary are continued. But in a bad year, what we have is the state mandated programs, those services that people rely on when they're having a bad time financially, our social services programs, et cetera. Those programs grow, the caseloads grow because of the difficult economy. And our revenues are not growing, again, because of a difficult economy. If you've lost your job, you're not going to be out at the stores in Rensselaer County spending money, and we're not going to be collecting sales tax. So our revenue is depressed while our expenses are increasing. And that's the teeter-totter, if you will, of county budgets, and why it becomes so difficult in those years that the economy is bad to get that budget out there in a way that doesn't further burden our property taxpayers. Even in the good years, though, we're often dealing with that additional expense as more mandates are shifted, or the state or federal government decide that they want to expand those mandated programs to provide additional services and pass that bill to us to pay. So there's not been many, I will say, easy years when it comes to the county budget.